Welcome to The Engaging Life, a podcast about using engagement equity to improve your relationship building skills in your personal and professional life. And now, here are your hosts, Brandon Suba and Angela Cheney.
Hi, Brandon.
Oh, Angie.
Yeah.
Here we are.
Here we are.
In the chairs.
Here we are. And right
The
now,
microphones.
I would say we're pretty engaged with what we're doing. What would you say?
But yeah.
Yeah.
I would say every time we come to the mic, no matter how much is on this sheet of paper in front of us, we are engaged
We are
together.
engaged because we are living the engaging life. And today I want to talk about the opposite.
Ooh.
Disengagement. So that's what we're trying to avoid, obviously, all the time while living the engaging life. The engaged life is to avoid disengagement. But I think sometimes the best way to learn about what we want to do is to focus a little bit on what we don't want to do.
Yep, I would agree with that.
And so that's what we'll be talking about today, the dangers of disengagement. So disengagement, defined, is the action or process of withdrawing from involvement in a particular activity, situation, or group. I would also add to that person.
Withdrawing mean leaving or not even showing up?
Withdrawing can be done physically,
Okay.
as in leaving. It can be done mentally.
Okay.
It can be done emotionally. And that's not just in a romantic relationship. You can emotionally disengage from, and sometimes that's good.
Correct.
Sometimes that is very good, but
We're talking about disengaging from things you should be doing.
right.
Okay.
So that's what disengagement is defined as. So let's first look at why. Why are we disengaged? Because no matter how good you are as a spouse, as a leader, as a friend, as a parent, you're going to do it
Eventually. Yep.
sometimes. And that's not to say it's bad, because you cannot be fully 100% engaged in everything at all times.
I want to say it's Tyler Harris, and I don't know if that's correct. This person is, I don't know, a famous influencer, I
Okay.
think, in the insurance world. And he did this Instagram live. And I rarely watch those, but I watched this one. And he was taking questions. And one of them was, how are you 100% every single day? And he goes, I'm not. But I have the discipline to come back from that slack day to pick up that slack and get back to it. And so I think, yes, you will always find disengagement in everything you do, but it's kind of how you come back to it that makes
It
a
is.
difference.
And it's also communication. So my husband I want him to be 100% engaged with me all the time that we're together. And that is not only is that a huge ask, it's a completely, it's a word I'm looking for.
It's not realistic.
Not realistic. It's
Yeah.
very unrealistic. And we have gone around. I mean, we get in fights about this all the time because, and of course it makes him disengage more. And, it's not possible. And a lot of the times how groups get better is giving grace to the person who needs to disengage.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a constant source of course, I get upset and I'm doing it too. I mean, I think back to, I'm just like, it's normally every morning. Todd tries to engage with me every morning. And I'm like, I'm in a hurry. I've got my routine. I'm sure the annoyance just shows on my face if he wants just 5 minutes of my time.
You know what? This must be a common thing, because I too, in the morning, I'm like, so Liz, yada yada. She's like, no, now is not the time. And another thing, because we've had friends say, like, I always want to be loving and hugging in the morning, right? Oh, we're not gonna see you all day. She's like, get away from me. I'm doing my makeup. One time I got burned with a straightener because I was trying to hug her, and I think she did it on purpose, to be honest with you.
It's hard to burn with a straightener. A curling iron is pretty easy to. A straightener, you can like clamp.
Well, no, you got the sides of it, because
okay.
she did like, get away.
Oh,
And it hurt a little.
violent. I love it. Okay, so we can't be engaged all the time. We are not saying that you should be engaged all the time, but there are some times where you need to be engaged.
Correct.
Lots of times.
Disengagement is not an excuse, though.
Right. So one of the reasons, and we're going to pull some current events here, COVID has made people a lot more disengaged because they didn't have to be. They didn't have to go out and see people.
Nope.
They didn't. And, obviously if you have a family, they were home, and you had to be around them. But work people, meeting. I mean, this was kind of a catch-all excuse to disengage. And a lot of people have had a very tough time coming back from that.
Yeah.
A lot of people
Don't
became much more engaged after that because they saw how much it affected their life and their mood and their relationships. So they came back more engaged. But others have really had a tough time.
Mm-hmm.
A really tough time.
Introverts or extroverts, or it really doesn't matter?
Probably definitely introverts.
Yeah.
Because they like to be alone more. They don't get the energy from other people. And so I would say that more so.
Yeah.
Extroverts,
Yeah.
I think we're kind of craving.
I'm an extrovert. Watch the YouTube. It's so obvious. I thought I liked the disengagement, and well, let's just use it. I'm in the office almost every day. Like, we can work from home if we'd like, and I'm in the office because I want that. And I was almost worried I didn't want that. Like, I wasn't gonna. It took no effort
but
whatsoever.
That really plays into my next point, which is we have convinced ourselves we're introverts.
Yep.
And that happens. So not really convinced ourselves are introverts, but have convinced ourselves we don't need other people.
Mm-hmm.
And this came from there's a podcast that I love. It's called The Happiness Lab.
You've told me about it.
Yeah, and it's all about our brains have convinced us wrong a lot of the times what we need to be happy. Our brains are lying to us.
Mm-hmm.
And I love this podcast because it makes so much sense. And so they did a study on, there's so many studies that they talked about, but the one I remember most is they did a study on like a train and people. So it was I don't know, Harvard or something, but he had his students take the train, and group A, he told them just to act as normal. Group B, he told them to make sure not to interact with anyone on the train. Group C, he told them to interact with whoever they were. Sorry. I'm getting excited. I'm touching the table.
In the table. We no longer have the freelance table.
Yes. So he told them to interact with the person they were sitting by and trying to start a conversation, blah, blah, blah. So they did this big, long study on it and found that the ones who interacted were happier. They had more positive feelings. They liked people more, all of this stuff. And even the ones who are introverts and hate talking to people, who are like, ooh, that's the worst thing in the world. And not only were they happier, but the people they interacted with were also happier.
Huh.
But it was funny because they did this study and the study was for like a certain, I can't remember exactly what it was, but maybe let's say BNSF Railroad. I mean, it was like a very, very large organization with a commuter train. And so they did this study to figure out how to improve employee happiness and engagement and all those things. And they came back with this. We need to encourage people to talk to each other. And you know what the company did? They created a quiet train where people could go where you were not allowed to talk to. They did the opposite. And it's just such that mindset. They thought they knew what would happen going in. The results were completely different.
Yeah.
But they still stuck with
the what?
And what's even funnier is they said, have you ever tried to do something like this before? And they said, yeah, we once had a bar car in the train. And they're like, why'd you get rid of it? Thinking that, oh, nobody liked it. There was complaints. You know what the reason was?
Money?
It was too busy. It was too crowded.
Let's make a train car that has engagement. Oh, shoot. It's too engaging. Yeah. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. So, and it was really interesting because they were like, even these people who have convinced themselves, I don't really need people. I don't really need to interact. It's not true.
No.
It is integral to our happiness and well-being. So
tribes. Don't you? It all goes back to we were born, raised in tribes. The wolf pack, I think, is closer to humans than we want to admit. We need people. We were put on this earth to interact and help each other.
Yes. Another reason we've been burned. I'm going to call my husband out here because this is something that happens to him a lot. He doesn't have a whole lot of friends because as soon as they do something wrong, he writes them off. Oh. And I think that it definitely comes from when he was a kid, he got moved around a lot and was never really able to form deep relationships, deep bonds. He doesn't know how to do it. And so the minute somebody does something wrong, well, done, on to the next one. I mean, he doesn't do it with me, obviously. Or we'd be like the
Yet. No, I'm just we did
No.
that. We talked about the yet.
he tried in the beginning
did?
and he couldn't quit me.
Keep it rugged.
So it obviously doesn't do it with kids, but with friends, he does it terribly. He'll be like, da da da. Oh, they didn't invite me to one thing. Done. It's bad.
Ooh.
And he knows it. He
Sure.
knows it's bad.
Yeah.
We talk about it a lot, but if you get burned, it's so easily just start drawing back. I don't want to deal with that. I don't want to be hurt. I don't want to try anymore. So that's a reason. Lack of honest communication is huge. We tell ourselves stories all the time. It's easy to be like, she didn't do XYZ because she doesn't like or respect me. You just make up stories. And it's a lot easier to make up stories when you're not talking to the other person to get their side of the story.
Oh, whenever you have to confront somebody, don't you always tell yourself the worst?
Yeah.
And then you confront them and they're like, okay, I understand.
Oh, I know.
You're like, oh.
I
wasn't prepared for that.
half-hour-long fights with people in my head. And I get all worked up and then you talk and they're like, that didn't happen at all.
No, yeah.
Just, wow. Yeah.
Yep.
But if you don't actually talk to them, that's the only conversation you've had.
Right. Then that's
the one
not
in your
fair.
head.
And that's not fair.
It is not fair at all. Another is we feel like we're not getting as much as we're giving. So that's that whole either tit for tat mentality or even the what have you done for me lately? They're not doing anything for me. Why should I do something for them? But it's so easy to pull back if you think the relationship starts getting weighted very heavily on what you're doing and you're not getting anything back.
And I think we all want to have a big heart and we want to help. I'm going to use somebody, let's say, that's going through addiction, right? Okay. And we want to have a big heart and we want to help them and they're not even helping themselves.
Yeah.
I know for a fact I struggle then with the I'm not going to continue.
Right. And there are
doing
definitely
this.
times.
You have to cut it off.
Who do you have to take care of first? You. And if somebody's draining you, if somebody's toxic, again, that's a time when disengagement is good.
Right.
There is a time to disengage.
Yep.
And there are people that you have to disengage from. So that's kind of more of a personal, but now let's look at why our employees are disengaged, because disengaged employees are very, very dangerous to the culture, to your organization, everything. So one reason is they do not have enough autonomy or decision-making power.
Even if they have the title. And or if the person they're working for is a giant ask hole, right? And it's like, oh, give me input on this. And then they just do what they want anyways. How does that encourage anybody to come and be like, you know what? You told me no 7 times of all my IDs. I've got another one. Yeah. Ideas.
Yeah. And it's at every level. Even your entry level part-time employees, you can give them some decision-making abilities. Even if it's you get to decide what type of bagels we get on Fridays or something. Give them something so that they have at least some personal power. The next is what you just said, giving power, then taking away. Oh, I had a boss.
Culture killer.
And she was doing our sheet. And I guess I might as well say what it was. It was a layout of the magazine. And this stressed her out all the time. She never had time for it, this and that. And I was like, hey, I want to take some of this off your shoulders. I want to start doing this for you. And she was like, okay. First time I didn't do it exactly how she wanted to. She didn't talk to me about it. All of a sudden, she started doing it again. It was so demoralizing. And I became very disengaged for a while. I'm just like, number one, I didn't do it wrong. Nothing. I didn't do it wrong. I may have done it, or I may not even have not done it the way she did. She just realized she didn't want to give up the power.
Yeah.
And then didn't have a talk with me like, hey, thank you for trying to do this. It really made me feel icky. It made me feel which would have been fine.
Yep.
But there was no discussion about it. It was just all of a sudden I wasn't doing it anymore. And I'm like, very disengaging. They're in the wrong job.
Oh, yeah.
So you put somebody, if you ask a frog to fly, he's going to feel like a failure his whole life.
That's right. Fish to fly. Frog.
Yeah.
I guess I thought I was going to say fish to swim, but
hopefully
they swim.
Hopefully they would
that's
be
asking them to fit in
a frog too.
Put a salesperson in a processing position or a processor.
Yeah.
That's what always blows my mind because I'm around a lot of underwriters and processors now, and when I tell them what my day looks like, I can see some of their eyes. They're just like, that I couldn't do that.
That sounds like it.
And I'm like, I couldn't do what you're doing.
Yeah.
So we're just a little different.
And being able to split. So going back to like a spouse type situation, there's something that's very relaxing. Like data entry is very relaxing to me, not to do all day.
Right.
Not to do all day,
Yeah,
but it's like
never do.
just enough that I have to think about it. So my brain can't be like, do, but not enough to really stress me out.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and Todd hates it. And so we try and make, when there's a task like that, it's like, give it to me. Give me an hour to just relax and zone out and do some data entry. I will like it.
Yeah.
Definitely different people like different things.
They do.
So
They do.
make sure you got people in the right job. They aren't receiving the right tools or feedback. So,
Or any feedback.
you want me to do X, Y, Z. I need this program to do it. I don't have this program. I can't do it. Or you assigned me this task. I did it. Not sure if I did it well. Not sure if I did it badly.
Yeah.
So not the right tools or right feedback. You've got a toxic ringleader. You get one toxic employee in there, and they can turn a whole organization.
That happens in networking groups, businesses, everything.
Everything. You get one person who's yapping. Why they can disengage the entire organization. So you've got one of those. They don't feel like they're contributing to the success of the company.
That's a millennial thing. Not specifically,
definitely.
But that is a big challenge that people see. Is if I'm going to come and work for you, I want to feel like I'm contributing, and not just to the business, but to like the world.
Yeah.
So they want to be doing something good, and I think that's
meaningful.
Yeah, and I think that's why a lot of companies are trying to be more involved in the community and things like that. And it's harder for bigger companies.
It is, definitely,
because you have too many moving pieces to really get that commitment to it.
And they need to see. So that's getting them on board with your vision, your values, and then also showing them exactly how what they are doing is contributing to those vision and values. So again, even if they're the entry-level employee choosing the bagels on Friday, find a way to show them how this, this makes our other employees happy. When our employees are more happy, they're something,
Nancy loves the everything bagel.
Yeah.
She appreciates you every day.
It sounds silly,
Friday.
but you've got to make sure that everybody in the organization can see this is what we're working towards, and this is how my part is helping us work towards that. Feel like they're not being treated well. I'm not getting paid enough. I'm not getting the benefits. I'm not.
So
anything.
To me, that's kind of a tough one because, and this goes right in the line. Actually, as you were reading these, it made me think of this. I know people that went for a promotion, didn't get it, and instead of coming back and saying, what can I do differently now to get there, they just go disengage.
Yep.
They just, you didn't pick me. You picked the wrong person. I'm
Fixed
done.
Fixed mindset.
Yeah, I see that a lot.
So these are the reasons why we see engagement. Now, what are some of the dangers of disengagement? So for yourself, you judge people more negatively. When you're disengaged, you judge people more negatively. And this is a Brene Brown, got to bring her in. Braving the Wilderness. Very, very good book. She says, people are hard to hate close up. Move in.
Yeah.
It's so easy to sit back and be like, no. But I don't know if you've ever, that was one of the reasons why I love that We're Not Really Strangers game, which I've brought up before.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And there were a few people where I didn't like them going into this meeting. I didn't really know them, but for whatever reason, I didn't like them. Coming out of that, inevitably, it changed my opinion on them. People are very, very hard to hate when you sit here and you really have a conversation with them and get to know them.
So I will never forget this. In my countertop days, I worked with this military, and I wish I paid attention to what level but he was very, very important. I feel. And on the phone, that guy would rip me apart about there was one little blah, 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 like just rip me apart. So I went there after the installation was done. I went there and he was downstairs on the phone. I could hear him and he was ripping someone apart, and he came up and I was like, look, we put some caulk in there and it's all fixed. And he goes, oh, Looks great. Thank you. Totally different person. I'm
Yeah.
like, you're such a tough guy on the phone. But if we're face to
Yeah.
face, all
Yeah.
day long, I can win this.
And it's so, and I do this, I'm a natural, I want people to like me. And I'm saying like strangers and
Mhm.
things like
Yep,
that.
me too.
And it is amazing. I almost take it as a personal challenge if like a cashier, a waitress, somebody like that is kind of being a bitch or mean to everyone. I like take it as a personal, I'm going to make friends with this person.
Are you a
And
woo in Strength Finder?
I think
You have to,
got
because
some of
that is the definite, because I'm the same way. I'm
Yeah.
the same way.
And I mean, my whole goal is not to, I'm not trying to get a discount. I'm not trying, I want to make
Nope.
them smile. I
Yep.
want to, and I mean, 9 times out of 10, all it takes is you smile at them first, give them a compliment, and it just transforms them.
So,
Just transforms them.
so I was at the supermarket, and with the shopping, like aisle pickup is what they call
Yeah.
it at my supermarket. So this lady was doing the shopping, and we kind of came to a crossroads, and she goes, "Oh, go ahead." And I'm like, "No, you go ahead." And she goes, "Well, I just work here," or "No, I work here." And I go, "You're still a human. Go ahead."
Yeah.
Like, it just,
Yes.
once again, they're seen as, well, you work here, so I should be more important. And in my
Yeah.
head, I'm like, no, not really. We're both just
people-
trying to shop here.
Yeah. Yeah. So move in. Another danger is you lose perspective. It's pretty easy to say my way is the only way when you don't ever have to be around other people.
Yep.
So that's a danger. Obviously, you harm relationships
Mm-hmm.
when you're disengaged. You know what? You'll die sooner.
I believe that.
If you are disengaged. Scientific American did this huge study. So basically, they they combined. I was actually looking for a different word,
What happened to
but I think combined works.
Good.
A bunch of studies over a number of years and found that the people who had a strong social support network would live 50% longer. I mean, it was
Holy
huge.
crap.
Huge.
Wow.
And they say loneliness is one of the top killers. This loneliness, So yeah, you'll live longer. Your employees, if they're disengaged, they're more likely to leave.
Mm-hmm.
Their productivity and quality is probably worse. They tend to gossip or talk badly about you or the company. They create a toxic work environment. And they don't put any extra work. So there's that, engagement equity. Them getting a paycheck, that is a transactional.
Yep.
There's no engagement there. They do their job, you pay them, that's transactional. It's when they're willing to stay a little bit later or when they're willing to do this, that's when they're engaged. And an engaged leader is you're willing to talk to them and have an open door policy and ask them how their weekend went.
Mm-hmm.
That's putting in the extra stuff. So what are some signs? Signs that you're disengaged. One is irritability. You get irritated with people, you probably are not engaged with them.
Yeah.
Inability to empathize with others. So if you're just like, John is just in a shit mood today and I'm mad because it's affecting, instead of saying, wow, John must be having some troubles at home.
You put your emotions first.
Yeah.
Just by default.
Yeah.
Yep.
Depression or anxiety. Disengagement can lead to that. Signs your employees are disengaged, negative behavior, decline in work, no involvement in team activities. So if you had that employee who always used to come to the happy hours or come to coffees that you did offsite and suddenly isn't, it's a sign of disengagement.
I haven't quit a lot of jobs. Well, I guess I have because I've had a lot of jobs, but I always hate it when when I left the countertops, their line was, "We knew you wouldn't retire here." And I'm like, didn't you want the mindset of like, yeah, the sales guy's going to retire here and that's how you should treat the person? And we had just done a test too. And according to my test, I was disengaged and looking, I was looking for something else anyways, but it's funny that you say that because let me rephrase that. It amazes me how many owners or managers miss that.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. Brandon's just not making it to stuff anymore. Or,
that's like a marriage falling apart. Like, I knew she didn't really love me anyway.
I knew that was going to happen.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. Lack of enthusiasm. So, I mean, you got somebody who's can you do that? Blah, blah, blah. Sure. Okay. I'll take it on. This is the Eeyore.
It's so
okay, poo.
I feel that's the definition of disengaged.
Yeah. Subtle non-compliance with rules. So this would be the, oh, they started showing up, fudging the dress code a little.
Oh,
Or
good use of fudge there, by the
thank
way.
you.
Yes.
Or you've asked, them to so here's an example in our own office. Nobody has done this, but we have a new office. We want all of the food trash put into the container with the lid on it so that there's no food smells. So an example there, a disengaged employee would probably just snarkily not do it.
Yeah.
Just subtle stuff. This isn't like,
that drives me up the wall.
doing horrible insider trading or something like that. It's tiny little things that are just kind of that little.
Those inside traders are very engaged most of the time. They don't want to get caught.
They're engaged in making a lot of money.
Yeah.
Unwillingness to learn or go the extra mile. So these are the ones that you didn't tell me all the instructions, so I didn't do it.
Oh.
Or I don't know how to do that. Or, an engaged employee is going to say, I would love to do this. There's a class I could take that would help me learn it. Can I do that? Going that extra mile and being, a self-motivator.
So the line, that's above my pay grade.
Yeah.
I hate that one.
Yeah.
It's it always goes back to the dress for the job you want, not the job you have. Okay. Don't wait until you get promoted to do the actions. Do the actions before you get promoted. Because guess what? It'll get you promoted.
Yeah, exactly. Or gossiping or passive aggressive behaviors. So as soon as you hear any of that, we've had that happen in our organization.
Of that. Absolutely.
That we started to hear the talk. Two employees would go for walks together.
Yeah.
And inevitably they both quit around the same time.
Yeah.
Another one we had to let go because we knew what was happening and just the whole culture changed.
Wow.
And just one can do it.
Disengagement. Yes. Yep.
Just one. So those are some of the signs. And because I have a whole lot more to talk about how to be more engaged, I think we're going to do a part 2.
Ooh, you are all about the part 2s, and I love it.
I am. So
I love it.
We know why disengagement is bad. We know how to spot it in ourselves and our employees. So tune into part 2. We'll tell you how you can be more engaged and how you can make sure your employees are more engaged.